Welcome to the Support Raising Solutions podcast, where we help new and current ministry workers grow in being spiritually healthy, vision-driven, and fully funded Great Commission workers. Welcome to the SRS podcast. I'm your host today, Callie Davis. I am part of the core SRS team, and I'm so delighted to welcome today Meg Craig.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Meg. So glad you could join me. Meg is with the Texas Baptist Student Ministry, which is a campus ministry. She also works as a coach and a strategist for support raising, which sounds really cool. I really want to know if that makes you really good at Battleship, the game as well.
Maybe not that game, but like Catan, I'm good at Catan. So
oh, I am terrible. Meg has been raising and living on support since 2016, and I invited her today to really dive into the topic of kind of what is our responsibility when it comes to support raising and partnership development, and what is God's responsibility? Because I think mixing those two things and putting maybe something in the wrong category is where we get a lot of stress, a lot of sense of failure. It can make support raising become a lot harder than maybe it needs to be, or maybe than it really is. And so, that's what I want to talk to you today. And Meg, how about you just kick us off with, why was this a topic that you wanted to speak on? Does it come from your own experience, or maybe just something you come across a lot with in your coaching?
Yeah, I think this is definitely a topic that, as we think about support raising for the long haul, I think this is a topic that we have to keep coming back to. And I think as I am in a season where I'm doing some more support raising in my life, there's been some adjustments. I've moved to a new city and I've had to increase what I'm raising. I've really had to come back to, like, what am I asking God to do? And what is it my role in this job, in raising support in the ministry that I get to do on the campus? And so I think that this has been something for me that actually has been hitting close to home lately, as I've been kind of moving back into a season of support raising and doing that, because this is my 6th year raising support. And so or maybe it's been longer than 6 years, I'm not sure. But as I've been doing this, I've had a steady group of partners that have come with me, but now I'm seeking to increase. I'm having to rely on the Lord, and especially in a new city and trying to make new friends. And so it's changed the way I've approached and thought about my responsibility in things and how God's provision plays out in that. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I think I just want to dive right in. So we're looking at kind of our responsibility, God's responsibility. Let's start with us. I feel like that's probably very relatable.
Yes.
How do you view what does the support raiser, what is in their power? What are they responsible for? What should we be on top of?
Yeah. So I think the very first thing that's our responsibility is our attitude, our heart posture towards support raising. We have to be the ones that are thinking through that. Like, it's not God's job to make us feel good about this. Although I think there's reassurance that he gives us, and there's promises that he gives us, and we can lean on those things. It's our job to walk in humility, to be prayerful. And I think those two things, especially humility and prayer, go together. I just recently saw a friend post something that said, when we don't pray, it's really pride that's keeping us from prayer. It's not busyness. It's not the lies that, well, I don't have time, that I don't have the space, I don't have all those things. It's really probably pride. And I couldn't relate more to that statement, just in thinking about like how much I like to be in control, how much I like to have everything like in my little boxes and rows. And so for me, prayer is really a release and having to let go of those things. And so when I come to the Lord in prayer, especially about support raising, man, I just feel the burdens lift off of me of going, oh, I don't have to have this all in control. And I can't make these decisions for people that I'm asking, but I can surrender that to the Lord. And I've just seen him show up so much in that. Callie, can I share a quick story about that? That's recent. So this is literally yet from yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So yesterday I made a phone call to somebody to ask if they would be willing to sit down for an appointment with me. And she just was very upfront and said that they definitely couldn't partner with me, but she still wanted to hear. And I was like, yay, I'm so excited. But I was kind of discouraged, like after leaving that phone call.
Yeah.
And so I was heading to meet with another friend for coffee that I was going to ask in person if I could sit down with her and her husband for an appointment. And so I like leave driving over to the coffee shop, and I'm like, God, please, I really I need a win today. Like it kind of just been a discouraging day. And I was just like, Lord, and I really love this friend, and I'm really excited to ask her to be a part of my team. And would you please just make this like a joyous moment, like when I get to talk with her about that. And so, we're hanging out having coffee. And so I bring up and ask her if I can have an appointment. And she just leans over and just I would be so excited. I actually was going to ask you if we could talk about this and all these things. And it was so encouraging. And I just left that meeting going, wow, I surrendered that conversation to the Lord, and God it was a beautiful thing. Now, it wasn't somebody saying yes to partnering with me, but it was such a sweet moment of going, hey, God, I need you in this. And God just really showing up and just getting to see that play out. And so I think our responsibility is our heart posture, our prayer. And I think we really have to just seek the Lord in that and have a heart of prayer. So, yeah.
I love how you talk about we can choose our posture, our attitude, walking support raising. Because I think about how you walk into a room or how you walk into an appointment is really what it is. When you're meeting with someone, is it, I've got this, I'm going to share these things. I've got the answer. I've got the perfect way to word this. And I want to say there are people that are really, really communicate well and can carry a lot of that, convincing, a lot of that, they can do a lot. Some people just have more natural gifts in that way. But if your posture is, this is what I'm going to do, you miss out on so much. We do want people to be confident. Absolutely. I want to be confident and I know how to share about my ministry. I'm excited about what God is doing. I want to invite you, but to walk in saying, what is God going to do? Because he is at work in a much bigger way than you trying to get one more partner on your list. He is at work in your life, in your ministry, in this other person's life. And why you're stepping through that door, I think really can not necessarily shift what you say, because at the end of the day, you're still sharing about your ministry. You're still doing all the same things, but the why and then how you handle the response changes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and I don't know, maybe some of the listeners on here, hear that, they've been doing this for a while, they're just starting out, but I know, as I've had support appointments, there's a difference when I walk into an appointment, really praying through that appointment, really asking the Lord to provide and really trusting him in that, whether the answer is yes or no, or maybe. And there's a difference when I do that versus when I'm okay, it's the next thing on my list and I'm going into that meeting. And so I think that our heart posture is our responsibility, our responsibility. And I think that we have to really surrender that to the Lord and really come to him in humility and recognize that he is the provider. So, I think that that's one way. I also think there's a couple other things that we can do. So some more maybe hands-on things for those that some more practical things. I think we're responsible for our management of time. I think that's a huge thing in support raising, and it can be a make or break with that. I think with that. And so when you manage your time to make those phone calls, set up those appointments, especially if you're in a season of I'm doing active support raising, or if you're in a season of maintenance where you're like just communicating with your partners and staying connected, we have a responsibility to manage our time well, so that one, we're connecting with these people that we're asking to be in our team and doing that clearly. And then two, we're communicating with our partners exactly what is happening and keeping the vision of the ministry that they are a part of in front of them. Because maybe they're not seeing that every day like you are. And so it's important that we continue to keep that in front of them. So I think those are just two other big things. I said time management, also communication is a huge thing that's a part of our responsibility as the support raiser, and also as a worker, a minister of God. So,
yeah. I think one of the interesting things, and kind of bridging to shifting to what is God's provision or what is his responsibility, the key tension here is, I think, is what do we actually have control over in this partnership development process? Because to be honest, we have zero control over someone partnering with us, or even someone wanting to meet with us. There are so many things that we actually measure our success. Like, hey, are we fully funded? How much of that is influenceable by our day-to-day, moment-to-moment decisions? So I think that's really hard, that tension, that what we're defining success isn't always where we're like actually able to do things. Yeah. Oh, so, I mean, you're welcome to comment that. I also, now I'm like really on fire. What is God going to do in this?
Well, and I think that I was going to say to what you were talking about, like how we measure success really does matter. And if you're going into support raising thinking success is, I had 10 yes appointments today, that's not, you can't control that. That's not a good goal, because you have no control over that outcome. But you can have 10 appointments. You can like set up and call enough people to have 10 appointments, maybe not in a day. I think maybe you could fit 10 appointments in a day, but if you do that, let me know. So, but having maybe 4 or 5 appointments in a day and just really getting to pack out your day that way is something that you could have an opportunity to do, but you're the one responsible for picking up the phone. You're the one responsible for making that connection and setting up those times. And so that's how we can measure success. That's how we need to measure success. I think even when we share the gospel, we can't measure success of sharing the gospel. That person gave their life to Christ. No, we have to measure that as, I was obedient to share and say the things God asked me to, and to be present in that moment. And that's how we measure like success, is obedience. And that's, I think, something so important. That's what we teach our students. So that's something that's really on my mind a lot. So, and as far as like God, what is God's responsibility? I think his responsibility is to provide. And I think God shows us that he knows that's his responsibility. Psalm 50, I want to read this really quick because I think it's important. It's Psalm 57 through 15. And I'm specifically going to read verses 8 through 10 because I think these kind of speak to this. God says, I have no complaint about your sacrifices or the burnt offerings you constantly offer. But I do not need the bulls from your barns or the goats from your pens, for all the animals of the forest are mine, and I own the cattle on 1,000 hills. And I love this because God's basically saying, hey, I don't need what you have. I actually own everything. And so God is the provider of all things. And I think maybe our listeners are not familiar with the God Ask diagram, but I think this is just such a good illustration. And if you haven't seen it, you should look it up, or maybe read the God Ask book. But the God Ask diagram is basically a triangle, and it has you at one corner and the people you're asking at another corner. And then at the top corner is God. And so you're communicating with God. Your partners hopefully are communicating with God, and you're communicating with your partners. And so God is the one that the source is coming from, that everybody's communicating with. And so we have to trust that God is our provider, not people, not ourselves, but our Father, who is going to give us good gifts. And I think God provides us the time that we need to be able to manage and have the phone calls and set the appointments. I think God provides the people to ask. I've seen so many times where myself or people I've coaching or others have said, God, like, I need more people, basically. I need referrals. I need people to ask because my list has run out. I don't know who else to ask. And God has brought new people into their lives. And I think God is the one that provides financially for us. I know He is. He's the one that gives us everything that we need. And I think what a joy it is to raise support and rely on the Lord in that way for every provision, and really just to surrender that to God. And sometimes it's scary. It's not always, to me, it's not always joyful. I'll be really honest, but I have seen God shape and sanctify me in that way where it is just like become a big joy for me, to be able to ask people to be a part of the ministry that I'm doing and to see the Lord provide for me. So it's been very neat.
I love how it almost kind of circles back of remembering God's role in support raising is kind of what helps reset our heart and our posture. So then we can kind of do our tasks with the right mindset and get to see God at work.
Yeah.
It is an odd thing sometimes living and raising support, because it's like you're not working towards like your fifth year promotion and raise. It's this idea that how we're getting provision is about something so much bigger than money, bigger than our job, bigger than our role.
Yeah.
And at times I'm just like, this is weird. And other times like, this is amazing that it's about God at work, not just in our ministry and what He's doing there and the lives He's changing, but this kind of ripple effect of everyone who now gets to join in, who gets to hear, who gets to be a part of it. And I'm amazed. I love it. I hope that this is a perspective that I continue to grow and see more and more of, because I would say there's nothing like it.
Yeah. And I think like when we take on the ownership of our communication, our time management and our heart posture, then it keeps the expectations in the right place. Because the expectation on us is to walk in obedience. That's what the expectation God has asked of us. Be obedient to me. And our expectation of God should be to be the provider. Whether you work in in ministry and you're raising support and you're doing ministry that way, or you work in ministry through a church, or you maybe work in like a secular job, like God is always our provider. It does not matter what role you work in, whether you're an asker or a financial partner, like God is the one who provides all of that. And I think that's what God is saying, like, this is what I own. I own everything. So you own nothing, basically. And so when our expectations can be in the right place, it keeps us from being hurt. I've noticed that, like, when we have false expectations or poor expectations or unmet expectations, there's hurt there. There's always hurt. But if God's expectation of us is obedience, and we know that, and our expectation of God is that He is the provider, and we know that and trust that, then the expectations are there, laid out on the table, and we can walk in confidence, in faith, and in joy to see those things fulfilled. And I think that's so important as we are raising support, as we are caring for our ministry partners. So, yeah.
I want to throw a bit of a curveball at you, a tough question.
Oh,
Because
goodness. Okay.
well, I can just imagine there is someone out there listening to this. Like, that's all well and good. I get the right perspective. I'm putting my time in to schedule and communicate, but I'm not seeing God's provision. Like, I'm trying to raise support. I'm doing everything I think is in my power. What else do I do? What else am I waiting for?
Mm, mm. Man, that's such a curveball. It's a good question though, and I am certain, 100% certain there are people out there asking that question. I think it comes back to our relationship with God. Honestly, I think that's the most important thing. So my advice to that person would be, hey, take a step back from this and you need to step into your relationship with the Lord. And really refocus and recenter. Is this where God is calling you? Are you sure of that? And then also, if that's the case, then, asking God, what do you need to adjust, change, or do in moving forward? And allowing God to be the one who answers and responds to that. Not just you trying to strive to get something or to get where you think you need to go. So those are my thoughts. I'm curious, Callie, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it feels like a cop-out answer to say there is no one solution. But I think it's very true. Everyone's journey through raising up a team of partners is unique. There are some commonalities, and that's what we train for. That's what we help people kind of learn some tools that will help them. But everyone walks into support raising with their own history, with their own experiences, and is walking and inviting their specific community. So there is no one perfect plan you can follow. So when you hit a wall, it's not the exact same wall that everyone hit with everyone before you, with all the things that led up to it. It's always a little unique. So I wish I had an easy answer, but I'm afraid life is a little more layered, a little more nuanced, a little more complex. So I think my first answer and solution is really make sure you're not doing support raising alone. Because whether it's an accountability partner or a coach, to have someone else helping discern what God is at work doing in your life is so valuable. I've seen people that kind of really hit the slump of just no one is meeting with me. No one is saying yes. I don't know what's going on. And to have someone else affirm your calling when you, maybe that's what you feel really unstable at. Like, okay, you're right. You're right. God brought me here. You've seen that. Like, my church has affirmed this. You're right. This is affirmed. Okay, let's move on. To have someone else kind of just, I say discerning, because you're seeking the Holy Spirit. What is he saying? And having a second voice, I think, really helps alleviate a lot of the self-doubt that can come in, to help you listen to the Spirit and not your own voice. Because that can be really hard. Support raising, personally, I think more than most other things, pulls up our insecurities, pulls up our failures. Yes. And so having support with you in this process is so, so helpful. Because you're looking at, okay, wait, is this calling the thing that I maybe took a step off God's path? Is it this ministry that the calling was right, but maybe not this role, or okay, maybe I'm missing this opportunity of community that I just never thought to tap into, and God really wanting me to connect over here. And I, for some reason, never even thought to talk to people over there, spread over there. God has something else in store. What am I missing? How am I missing that leading? I don't have an answer for everyone who's listening, because I have no idea what your journey is, what your answers to all those questions are, except I just want to encourage you, do not try to find those answers alone. Have a coach, have a pastor, have someone in this walk with you.
Yeah. I think that is really good. And you're right. It is super nuanced.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I've moved into a role of coaching a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more. And so I'm seeing how nuanced that can
Mm-hmm.
be. And trying to coach and encourage those who maybe are struggling or
Mm-hmm.
who have hit a wall, or they went in with rose-colored glasses and then they came out with a battle scar.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're just having to care for them. And so encouraging, I think, having a friend or community of people that are praying for you,
Oh, yeah.
is really important, and you're connecting with, and there's accountability there. I think that's really good. So, yeah.
Wow. We dove a little deep there, but I'm glad we went there.
Yes, I love the curveball hard questions. They're so fun.
Yep.
So,
Well, Meg, thank you so much for your time. I have been so encouraged, and just the recasting of vision. God is at work, remembering what his role is and not trying to put that on our own shoulders. I think feels very lightening.
Yes.
That yoke that Jesus, my burden is light. And so if it gets really heavy, the question is maybe we're pulling things onto it that aren't ours.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Any final words you'd like to share before we wrap up today?
Just be encouraged. I love in Joshua 1:9, where he says, be strong and take heart. Like, I will be with you always, basically. Total paraphrase there. But I definitely want to encourage y'all to just remember that God is with you, and he goes before you and goes behind you. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm encouraged. I hope our listeners are encouraged. This has been a lovely time. So Thank you for joining me, Meg. Listeners, thank you for joining us. We hope you have a beautiful day, and that maybe this was an encouragement to get you one step closer to spiritually healthy, vision-driven, and fully funded. I'm Callie Davis, and I wish you the best. Thanks for joining us today, and please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode as we work to give more insight into building and maintaining your ministry partnership team.